Welcome everybody out to podcast number 451. We are going to talk about production control today, and this is going to be a 6-part series, so stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome everybody. I hope you're doing well. We're going to talk, like I said, about production control, schedule control. Actually, the real name for this is Takt control. However, I did not want anybody to think that this was just another Takt planning podcast. This deals with everything, any type of project, any schedule, any scheduling method. This is scheduling theory on the actual production level in the field, things that we can do to increase the productivity and the flow of our projects. So I have a really nice outline. We're going to go through these one by one. So I'm hoping that even today we finish with podcast episode 456. Here are the titles. Superintendent and Foreman control. What are the aspects of that? That's what today's podcast is going to be. Number 2, creating stability on a project site. How is that important to the actual implementation of production control? Leveling work. That'll be podcast 453. How does that add to our ability to control production? Roadblock removal. That'll be podcast 454. Installing a quality product. That'll be podcast 455. How does that help us to maintain schedule? And then production. How does the principles of production help us to maintain schedule? That's podcast number 456. So let me just give you a little bit of a background on why this has been on my mind and where it came from. So Takt control is a term that I got from the Germans, from Binninger and Janosch Dlouhy. They had coined the term, to my knowledge, Takt control, which is the implementation of production control in the field. And I didn't exactly know what it meant when they first explained it to me. Well, I kind of, but I did. Takt control. It was kind of this elusive thing. What is Takt control? I don't really understand what's going on there with that. So I did a little bit of research of it and have been pondering on this for a while. But really, where I learned it was the simulation, and I've done the simulation twice with different teams. And there's a pattern that comes out in each. What do you want to call it? Running or sequence or rendition. Anyway, every time I play that simulation, it acts, meaning the same things happen on that simulation like would happen on a real project, and it's pretty impressive. So I distilled those down and started learning from them. Every team that I do this with, I've only done that twice, but I've done other simulations with other teams. Every time I do a simulation, actually it's 3 times. Anyway, I'll write down the key steps that it takes to increase production within that simulation, within that team play at that time. And I find it very, very interesting. And it always comes down to these 6 topics. So I'm very passionate about that. I will post this also as a LinkedIn post for people so that they can understand, what is production control in construction. And it comes down to those concepts. The actual supervisor control, creating stability, leveling work, and roadblock removal, installing a quality product from the first from the start, and then implementing what we call production control. So that's where we're headed. I hope you are excited for this, because these are the principles that we need, that we get to be following in construction. Before every podcast, I will say that the environment in which we implement Takt control is the meeting system. It is the huddling system. So the meeting system, whether you use True Last Planner or the meeting system that I suggest, which is the integrated production control system, however you do it, the way that you implement Takt control is in these meetings. So I recommend, and everybody probably knows this about me by now, a strategic planning and procurement meeting where you do high-level adjustments to the overall Takt plan, and you align the procurement, and you basically refine your strategy for the project. Then a trade partner weekly tactical, or what you would call the weekly work planning meeting. This is where You and the foreman collaborate, make commitments together in an integrated environment, and commit to and carry out a plan and create a plan for the next week, your weekly work plan. Then the daily afternoon foreman huddles, I do them in the afternoon because I strongly believe in making sure that there's enough time for somebody to respond and change the course of work. And so if we do it that morning and then we change the course of the work, people are unprepared. I like to plan the afternoon before so people can hit the ground running the next day in what I call the worker daily huddle. That worker daily huddle is the 5 or 10 minute meeting where we explain the plan to the team. And then after that, they go do their crew preparation, and then we bring roadblocks to the team. So the overall strategic planning, weekly planning, day planning, communicating the day plan, removing roadblocks. It's a cycle of a meeting system where we implement Takt control. So let's go ahead and start out with the responsibilities of the superintendent and the foreman. So the superintendent and foreman control. Here are the topics one by one. And each of these podcasts are going to be fairly short because I'm going to go through the concepts and as soon as I'm done, we're going to go to another topic. But here they are. Stage materials ahead of the takt time. Prepare other areas. Improve handoffs. Match staging areas with laydown areas. Increase communication and swarm problem areas. So a superintendent and a foreman should be out in the field, meaning they should be working together to implement the takt plan, and they use certain strategies for that. So they will implement all of the strategies over the next 6 podcasts, but these are some things that specifically they do. So they are in the field, and that's a very important consideration. They don't just sit back at the office, especially area superintendents, assistant superintendents need to be creating flow in the field, and this is how they do it. So if you have an activity in a takt wagon for a specific week, and let's say you're on a 5-day takt time just to make it easy to explain on this podcast, and they finish on Wednesday or Thursday. Should we move forward the next week's activities and ask the trade partners to start early? No. That's typically what in the last planner system and in the lean community people will tell you to do, but that's wrong. Our first default, now you may end up doing that for some reason or another, but our first default is to use the time to finish the area, to make sure that everything is done, all inspections are done, it's cleaned and swept and demobilized, and that the next area, meaning we would spend the time training the workers on the next area, preparing the next area, staging materials for the next area, laying out the next area, getting all of our tools and gang boxes cleaned up, really regrouping as a team. Imagine, and I'll probably use this analogy over and over, imagine a pit stop crew at NASCAR, right? If they did car after car after car after car, do you think they would go as fast? No, they have breaks in between. They get their equipment all set up. They get, they get their people trained. They get everything greased. They practice. They communicate. They do a number of things that are very, very effective in for the preparation of the work, and it's quite remarkable. So that image of the pit crew is something that I'll keep in my mind every time I talk about takt control or production control, because literally that's the way we approach it. So let's go through these one by one. Staging materials ahead of the takt time. So if you have that activity starting on Monday, and instead of rushing and pushing work everywhere, you actually take the time to plan and use that buffer at the end of the week, and you're doing a good job with that, then, or whatever the takt time is, it could be a 4-day takt time, 3-day takt time, 2-day takt time, whatever. If you have a little bit of a buffer and you're cleaning up and getting the crews ready, why not, and I would recommend that you absolutely do this, why not stage the materials? Meaning that if you get the pallets, the greenies, the tools, the everything that you need to go install staged over there ahead of time for that week, when you come Monday, it will be ready to go and you will immediately begin production work. Very, very good stuff. If I was going to go put together a bed or something from IKEA, the first thing I do is I clean the area, clear the area, know where it goes, confirm with my wife that that's where it goes. I get all my materials, my screwdrivers, screw guns, hammers, whatever around me. I get my materials staged, and then I get ready to put this thing together. So staging materials ahead of time is a really key thing. One more thing back to the pull in construction, and I'll repeat this again as well. I was talking to university students, and I was like, would you rather flow with buffers or pull? And some people would repeat, that pull is something that's commonly taught in the industry. And I said, how would you like if in school your university professor said, all right, if you finish an activity or an assignment early, you get to now finish it early as well, meaning your new deadline is to finish it early. Do you think people in school would appreciate that? No, because they are being penalized for finishing early. Everybody would start procrastinating and waiting till the last date so they wouldn't be punished. But that's what we do with trade partners. We're like, when we move them up like that, we're like, okay, so this other contractor's done. Everybody's meeting production. Let's move everybody, cause a ton of variation, push everybody into different areas, and let's make sure that we're just scrunching the work up, and now your due date is moved up as well. And that's just not a good thing. Like, nobody would thrive in that kind of an environment. Yet people advocate pull systems over and over and over. And really, the main thing in construction is a flow system. It's takt planning. So that's the last thing I'll say there. But for the superintendent and foreman control, this is what I'm going to say. Staging materials ahead of time is a huge thing. And if you're like, that sounds okay, you will note that if you ever play the simulation with me, you will not accelerate your time unless you start pre-staging materials by area. Unless you start pre-staging materials ahead of time, which will allow you to hit your cycle time at the right start time, and it will allow you to finish on time and have a really nice duration for your cycle time. Second thing for superintendent foreman control is you prepare other areas. Instead of moving that work forward and collapsing and scrunching everything together, use your buffer for preparation. So wherever your crew is going next has to be prepared before that week starts. Meaning when you come in Monday, there is no scrambling, there's no freaking out, there is no confusion. That area is prepared. You have the lift drawings, you have the shop drawings, you have the layout, you have the material stage, you have the people trained, you have the crew composition ready to go, you have all the tools, you have the gang boxes ready. Everything is ready there, ready to go. Number 3, for superintendent and foreman control, you have to improve handoffs. And so we should be more focused as foremen in construction with other people's work when we come near the handoff than we are our own. Now, inside the actual cycle time, we're focused on ourselves. We're focused on us changing those tires, building that house, completing that foreman, that work for the foreman, completing our assignment, whatever analogy you want to use. We are focused on our work. But when it comes down to the end, we stop focusing just on what we're doing and we say, what would we have to do to make this ready for somebody else? What would we have to do to accept the area that somebody else is making ready for us? And so the foreman has to shift her or his mindset to that, and then their work will be completed or started in a different kind of a way. When we think of other people as customers, and when we really act in that way, we prepare and act and work differently, and we start to have different criteria for completion. So for foremen and superintendents, we have to be really, really focused on the handoffs and improve those handoffs. Okay, number 3, matching staging areas with your laydown areas, meaning your takt zones. And actually, I could probably word this better. Let me say matching takt zones with laydown areas, or laydown areas and staging areas. What I mean by that is, if I am if I have all of my unitized curtain wall or all my casework and millwork all staged somewhere, that needs to be shook out or shaken out or parsed out or whatever you want to call it by area, meaning that if I'm about to mobilize this with a forklift into zone 1, I want all of the zone 1 materials palletized, ready to go, so that when I need them on the Friday before the takt time hits, or whenever the takt time hits, but the day before or 2 days before, I can go pick up that material and it won't take me very long to stage those materials. So matching your takt zones with laydown areas and staging areas is a very effective method because it prevents treasure hunts and allows us to go faster. The other thing is increasing communication. When you see really good teams working in the field, they communicate a lot. I mean, they're talking about where they're going to be, what they need, trouble that they've encountered. I mean, it's high communication environments are really, really successful. So it might seem self-explanatory, but superintendents and foremen can increase the amount that they walk, increase the amount that they talk, increase the amount that they talk one to each other, especially to improve those handoffs. When we play the simulation, the teams that finish the soonest are the ones that are talking the most with each other. It's very, very effective. So let's go ahead and go to the last one, swarm problem areas. Swarming is actually a lean concept. I don't know if anybody knew that, but swarming is where you take additional resources or multiple members of the team and you swarm and you rally around a particular area, a problem, and you undo the bottleneck, you undo the roadblock, and you make sure that that is cleared. So if you have a production system in the field and the superintendent and foreman see that something's going wrong or something slowed you down or there's a troubling area, in a way to create flow and increase production would be to swarm problem areas. And so the concept here, as I summarize all this, is that the superintendent and foreman, they should be in the field. They should be solving problems. They should be adjusting the tactics in the field to achieve flow and using these techniques to really make sure that what's being controlled and implemented in the field is representative of the target of the Takt plan and really taking care of everybody on site and creating that win-win. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. This was 16 minutes. The other ones might be shorter. I don't know. But this is production control number 1, or you could say schedule control episode number 1, or Takt control episode number 1. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.